will demonstrate how MPS can help a user in building a complex model. The complex model that we'll build here is a model of requirements for a sliding door. So, and for that we will use a tool called EARS-CTRL that we have developed previously, where requirements can be defined as English sentences. So, the running case study that we'll be using in this video is a sliding door. The sliding door controller that we're trying to define the requirements for. So the mechanism itself has the two sliding doors. The sliding doors will open if somebody enters this area here where the sensor, the proximity sensor detects the object. It will then proceed to open the doors until the opening limits are reached. Once the opening limits are reached, so this is also with sensors, a countdown timer will start, and once that time has elapsed, the doors will close again until a closing limit is reached here and is detected by another sensor. So let's switch to MPS. And what we have here is actually a model of the process that's supposed to be followed. So this model has been already previously fed into a dashboard, and what we'll do now is instantiate the dashboard itself. So let's instantiate the dashboard here, and we see here that let's just reduce this. We have the dashboard here, which is essentially a state chart, and we are here at the current state to start with, and the idea is that we follow through these steps to build our composed model. The dashboard itself is composed of a hint, this thing that you're supposed to do next, and also a display of the state where you are at each moment. We can also flip to a tabular view here, for example, which example actually has the same information, but in a different from a different with a different representation. So what we'll start by doing is actually following the hint, and as it says here, press to create a new glossary for the project. So we'll just create the new glossary for the project here, and we see that in the meantime the state has advanced to check for a component in the glossary. So what we've done so far is we have a glossary here. So let's just give it a name. 3, 4 controller, and again the same thing here. 3, 4 controller, and we'll need to add a few components as the dashboard says. So what we'll start by doing is I have a previous project that is complete. I'll take the data from there. So let's start by taking the components. I'll just copy paste them inside and just put them inside here and look at the dashboard again. We've seen that we've advanced one step, and now it says check for actuator definition in the glossary. So what this means is that we actually have to have some actuators there, because it does not make sense to have a controller without actuators, because then it will not do anything. So we'll just put the actuators in there, and we'll see where we are right now. And we've again advanced to check for glossary completeness. So the guidance hint now is actually press to create a requirements file, because we actually have a glossary that is sufficient now to build requirements. So let's just do that, and we see here that we've advanced again one step, and we have a requirements file here. So let's just it's for door controller, give it a name, and point to a glossary. Okay. So if we go again and see the glossary, we see that there are a few sensors also. So let's just copy these also, although the dashboard does not require us to have sensors, because you could have a controller that just actuates without sensing, but we'll anyway have the sensors because we need them for our door. Okay, so if we go back to the dashboard, we're still at the same place. Where it says that the requirements are not realizable and not all glossary items are covered. So the reason for that is that we actually have no requirements at all. So naturally, the glossary items are not covered in the sense that they're not used by the requirements, and the requirements themselves are not realizable because we don't have any. This is interesting because what we have here is actually a formal check in the background that the requirements are realizable. So this goes through an external tool and is able to decide whether the requirements are realizable or not. So let's go and get the requirements themselves now. I'll just copy and paste them here and put them back in. And we see here now that we have the requirements. Don't mind the errors. This has no influence on what we're doing here. And we can see here, for example, that the requirements sound very much like English. We have here when object detected, the door controller shall open the door until the opening limit is reached. Um, and others that actually was pretty much what I said when I described the example. So this is one a very nice feature of our tool is that you can express requirements in English. Um, if we now take a look at the dashboard, we see that we're actually at the end because we've built all the steps. Now we have that the requirements are realizable, so we can actually turn that into a controller, and the glossary terms are covered because we've covered the requirements do cover all the things that we've defined in the glossary. Let's, for the sake of exploring the possibilities of the dashboard, let's take a look here. And now let's say that we define another requirement. I'm not even going to do much about to it, but we have another requirement here. And then if we see the dashboard again, we see that we've gone back because now the requirements are not realizable, although the requirement although all the glossary terms are covered, the requirements are not realizable because I've introduced in the meantime a requirement that doesn't make sense. So if I go there and I erase that requirement, we should go back to the point where we've finished our process. And that is all. Thank you for listening and watching the video, and try out the tool that is in the GitHub repository where this video was linked from. Thank you and bye.